Okay. So on this note, I want to talk about how I use Team Para at 3 different scenarios. One is the company I work for, which I don't control their like payroll, so I couldn't really say, this is the system you have to use, and it's hard to get the buy-in, and productivity is personal. So there's that challenge. And there's also an organization I run, which is Living OS, and that I actually could say, this is the setup that would help maximize productivity and everything, and I can help maintain that. So I'll talk about that. And also I'll talk more about how I do task tracking across personal work projects. Okay, so let me start from the most difficult one, which is using Para at Google, or actually trying to adopt Para at Google. So I think the history goes back to the day the first month I joined. And one thing, even though like Google's mission is to make information organized, searchable, a lot of the team knowledge and internal information aren't quite organized. And I found that people often couldn't find the right projects to context, and they're often lost, often pretty confused. So a couple of people came to me since I was the product manager and asked if I could help manage the information and documents. And I was first new on the job. I was very excited. I was like, yeah, of course. Like, I love productivity. I'm going to. Oh, okay. I think there was a mute. Oh, and I was muted. Okay, I'm back. And I was very excited to help them set up the system. And then I realized that productivity is really personal, and that's why I drilled that over and over in week 1. And for people who have been working at a company for, like, say, 5 years, 10 years, the amount of information in Google Drive, especially since the storage is unlimited, it's insane. Like, there's so many stuff, and you couldn't even, like, when searching it even takes time. So not alone like trying to organize your drive, organize your email, it's just a lot. And that's what make it partially pretty overwhelming. But the other part is that I ended up doing an overhaul, and I set up the Para system for the team. There's a shared drive, which I don't know if people actually use it that much, but there was a system, and I got 3 people lovingly use it, and everyone else actually told me that they never really see their Google Drive because it was such a mess. So they don't even want to go in and find the whatever structure, Para, whatever. So it didn't work out eventually, like, because I either have to keep maintaining it for the 3 people who are actually using it, including myself, so 2 other people marginally, or I can just stick with the flow and use whatever works, since they have been working okay and delivering stuff on time. So there's no reason to create another structure. So what ended up happening is that I still have Para for myself at work, and it's super simple. It's literally just 1-p one dash project, 2- areas, 3- resources, 4- archive, and that's it. Everything is nested in between, and it's just for my personal peace of mind because the information is too much, and I just don't want to look at a messy workspace. But I never got the team adoption I needed, and that's probably why Maria Pierce said earlier today that it's super hard to get team Para working. So I would just recommend you to like not try it unless you're the founder or you are the knowledge organization list that people task you to. On the optimistic side, which I actually have a successful case study, is Living OS, which I run. And I don't know if you can see it, but I actually do 2 things here. I make sure every key projects are highlighted at the first glance. So, and I also flatten the hierarchy. So the number 1 is to really make sure that the most important stuff either color coded as this, like actually prioritization, things we are building, fellowship, the gifts, the resources, like we make sure that they're all obvious. So anyone who wants to work on something could find it immediately. And since no one really know who put what in projects or areas or resources, we want to flatten the hierarchy. So we don't have to go in, regret that it's the wrong folder, come back up, and we just do this. And this is actually working really, really well for the team for over a year or so. And people actually adapted to their personal life because the team one has worked so well. Yeah. So okay. So that's the team setup. And on the task side, I use Todoist for that, and everything else is Google Drive here. So I use Todoist for the team one, and that I only have projects because Todoist is just for tracking to-dos, right? So usually for areas, resources, and archive, they don't really need that immediate action, and I would just recommend having minimal structure so you can you don't have to create some artificial stuff just for one or two things that are not that important. Okay, so this is the team part. Let me pause and see if anyone has any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
So did you undertake some meeting, some gathering of and get some discussion with others about what you were trying to do, or just wondering how you got going?
Yeah. Do you mean which one? The one for Google or the one for my own company?
I figure the one for your own company is more likely.
Yeah, so because that's the actual working successful case study. I see. So when I only gave them a heads up that this is the okay, so the system is set up before people joined. So it was just me for a good 6 months to a year, and then I had people join. So by that point, I already have my own para working really well, and that's basically part of their onboarding. When they join, this is how you're going to file stuff, like how you're going to create ads, share Google Docs, Google Slide, and all that. So there is a pretty clear memo distilling what to do. So people will just try and run with it. And when they have questions, they will come to me and I will explain. So documentation and the early muscle is built from that.
Thank you.
And on the question on how big is the LivingOS team? So we have, so I think it went up to 7, and then now we currently have 5. So this team para has been working for 5 to 7. So it's still pretty small in terms of team size. Does this break at certain threshold? I don't know. I will be interested to see, but I think it makes sense that when organizations scale, you will need a different information system at different places. But my hypothesis is that if the memo is clear enough, if the instruction is clear and straightforward enough, and people see the benefits, this could stick. But I can report back once my team gets bigger, and if it breaks or not, I can share more. Okay. So any final question for team 1? If not, I will move on to the Rome one, which I use for personal para, and that I will do a live demo, since like there is some confidential stuff I couldn't just click and share here for team stuff.
I have a quick question regarding para. They also said to put number 1, number 2, number 3. Do you find it helpful? I don't see it put here.
Yeah, so it's not put here, but it's put in my my Google one. And the reason is only because it's easier to sort, because if you just do para, the alphabetical order is not in the right order you want to see it. So usually I add those append those number when I want them to be sorted in a certain order.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And let me see, curious to know. Yeah, so if anyone has worked with team para before and has worked, or I mean, has or hasn't worked, feel free to share in the chat, like yes or no, because I will be really interested to see the distributions here. Yeah. Okay, so I think for Shay, if you try to implement para in your team that you don't manage, would your manager be impressed or threatened? So I think it actually goes back to what problem you're trying to solve, right? Is information messiness a common pain point across your team? Does your manager feel that pain point? And if so, then they likely will thank you. And you can propose that. Say, hey, I have a system that could help clear this pain point up because it has worked for my personal life. Would you be open to seeing how this works? So you can literally walk them through the the hierarchy, the structure, and then that will probably be better received. But the only thing is that you will be the maintenance person, even when you're out of office, going out of vacation, because like that's the that's the price you're going to pay if you're going to be the person who is running, setting out the system. So, and usually if you leave the company, that system will collapse. So that's the caveat I will put first. Okay, so let me pull up my personal para, but before that, let me just share what we talked about last week, which is the 12 favorite problems, and what we are going to talk about this week, which is around project. And Tiago may have said this, if not, I think he will, which is project is for the short-term management, right? And 12 favorite problem is for the long-term one. And what I personally found in my own life is when you marry like the projects and with the 12 favorite problems, they actually go really well and define how your productivity system look. So I will be sharing my Rome demo on how they are linked together, and I can also kind of like share a bit more about some other templates that I have added as well. Okay, so any questions before I jump up to the demo? Let me see. Haven't got any, but I can. Okay, I will explain what is AOL and like all the shortcuts in one sec. So let me pull on my screen. Okay. Yeah, it's areas of life. Okay, so can everyone see my screen? Okay, nice. So I call it lazy para or even lazy pod because I don't really have resources and archive that rigidly put. And I'll talk more about why, because it's wrong, you know. So first off, project is super important because it's really the basis of para, right? Once you define projects well, areas, resources, archive could be better put in place. But if your project is kind of shaky and the definition isn't super clear, then there's a lot of blurry lines, and that may not be as powerful as others. Okay, so let me go into the project and I can talk about why it's like this. So it's currently put in a priority order. And the ones with emojis, the fellowship I run, the podcast, the book, this code, the mentorship, the Substack, those are higher priority. So I have an emoji attached to it. And the ones that don't have emoji are just stuff that I either don't really feel excited about, or they were there, but I actually don't really know whether they should be deprioritized or even removed. So I just put it there for the purpose. The other point of project is that I usually make it really obvious that I can see everything at first glance, right? I said that in the team para as well, because usually if we don't see it, we just forget it. At least that's the case for me. So that's why project is set up this way. And the naming convention, yes, and to Rep's question, these are prioritized in order of importance. And the reason I put project areas together is because I can easily say, it's actually not a project anymore. I can just drag it down there. Like I like the fact that I can be moving, promoting, and demoting projects easily in one page. So that's why I have them together. Because in Rome, you can as well like have a project and then areas for a different page, right? And that's the only reason I'm putting them in one mega page. Okay, and the naming convention, I can talk more about why. So you probably have guessed, like P dash, it's easy because whenever I want to be typing on a different page, I can just say, okay, so now it's thinking about the projects, then I can just type P and then I can, what's that? Wait, oh, sorry, this thing. Yeah. So I can do the hyperlink, and then when I type P, I can see every project at once. And it's just easier to sort and link as I go through the pages. Okay, so that's about projects, and I can probably go into the detail one. Oh wait, I see it. My screen froze. Okay, and then in areas.
Can you take a quick question about project?
Yes.
What was the sort of scope criteria for how big or small a project?
Yeah, good question. So I I wanted to talk about minimum viable project today, but I actually took it out of the agenda in the interest of time. But I think the key idea is this. I want to make it very, very small. And I usually wouldn't turn it into a project until the 80% of the materials are ready. Like I want to make sure each projects are easy enough to tackle that I actually want to move forward every week or every other week. So that may be a little bit vague, but my advice is to, if there is a specific case I could help right now, but if not, my advice is to make it as small as possible. So it's a modular, like it's a building block that you can use for a bigger project, bigger areas, or archive it when you're done with that.
Thank you.
Okay, assuming I have answered it. Any other questions regarding projects here? I will also be sharing the templates that I use in each project as well. Okay, really good. I'm assuming the yes, please from Layla is the, yeah, okay. It's the template one, so I'll be sharing it later. And areas. Okay, so areas, the thing about areas is that I actually have a little bit different take. I think one way that we have seen is that like if you want to, like there may be areas like cooking, health, like there are a lot of areas that people just put in Evernote or Notion. But my take of area is actually a bit more intentional, or actually I don't even know if that's the right framing, but at least these are the areas of my life. So instead of saying that areas of a productivity system, I just think about what are some of the key pillars of my life: career, self, body, love, brain, family, money, time, emotion, friendship, spirituality, character. And these are usually the top, maybe like these are the top areas of my life that I want to consistently invest in, no matter where I am, like which stage I am in, or like what I'm doing. So that's usually how I use area. So I probably have tweaked the definition a little bit. And by doing that, I found that it's really easy for like almost every areas or project could be folded under any one of them, and sometimes maybe 2 or 3. So that's why I put them as like a hashtag, like a link. So some of the projects may have 2 areas, some may have 3, some may have 4. So it's a little bit different from how things are there. So I hope I didn't confuse you. But let me give a few examples about the areas I use. So yeah, so yes, I love it because every single thing can fall under one. Yes, so I will I will share my 12 area problem, which you will see how the 12 areas are included. Actually, let me share it now because it may be helpful. So you can see this is my 12 area problems, and each problem has a couple areas associated with that. And the only reason I'm doing this on one line is that it's easier to filter the tag. And I will share more maybe in 2 weeks where we actually talk about like how do you turn them into a system. Yeah.
Charlene, can I ask a question about
Yes.
areas? So you said you've shown us that your sort of definition or how you use areas has evolved. I'm curious kind of what the evolution was, because some people starting out at an earlier place might want to, like, did you start with more kind of BASB type areas and then?
Yes. So I used to do BASB type areas and it went too big. So I ended up having 30 to 50 areas in my Evernote, and I just forgot whether they're in my resources or areas, and I got really confused. So it was in the interest of simplifying stuff, and I want to just really think about if there are areas, what are some areas that are actually important in my life. And I was able to kind of find a couple ones, 12. Maybe I will make it 10 in the future, but right now 12, and all of them can map into one of them. So that's when I actually decided to stop using the arbitrary areas, which I maybe just like define on the whim, and actually use the one that means more to me. Yes, and a question on why AOL and not just A. Okay, so that's a very good question. And the reason is, I think I may butcher who that is, but someone I saw shared in Circle an awesome setup of Rome and Para in Rome Beginner. And I think he used status instead of S. So I think that's the same philosophy here. So the reason I'm using AOL instead of A is that I would forget what A means. So the only reason I use P for projects is that I really use P a lot, but areas doesn't come up that often. And I probably would remember, like, so what is it? Is it archive? Is it areas? Is it areas of life? Like I would forget. So that's why I decided to use that. Okay. And another question I got in a direct message is, did you come to these narrowed AOL opportunistically or over time or set aside a channel time? Okay, so I think it's more progressive. So I started with 6 areas. I think it was just like, family, love, money, time is pretty small. And then I realized that emotion and spirituality is super important to me, and it deserves something more. And then I outgrew it to like 8, 9, 10, 12. And now I'm like pretty capped. And I feel like if it's beyond 12, I'm going to forget it. So I don't plan to add any more. So I'm thinking about maybe combining character and emotion. Like I'm doing some experiments. So it's not a final list yet. It's always evolving. Yeah, okay. Okay, and for Steven's question, so where would I put cooking? So it will be under body, right? It's cooking is basically feeding my body, so I am healthy and lean and all that and nutritious. So yeah. Okay, so I think I answered a lot of the areas question. Let me go to how I sort areas in Rome. So this is another interesting way. So I usually so you see P for projects, you see AOL for areas of life. And for areas, I use verb to annotate it. So I will be, let me try to do some example. So if I do coach, you'll see coach, powerful analysis, what Isabel, what a mantra I came up with Addie, with why coaching is so powerful. So this is how I sort areas, because I usually found that my areas are either something that I'm working on, which is coaching, or thinking about brainstorming, which is journaling, or learning, which is basically writing, and teaching, which is what I turn them into products. So I feel like these 4 verbs actually cover my areas really well. Okay, and haven't seen a question regarding this one. Okay, so let me share a couple areas examples. So here is Write, which is Living Us Together Learning online course by Jack Butcher. Writing a letter to my younger self. Teaching, which is where I kind of come up with a quote and put it together. Writing, which is an interesting prompt. And then Lazy Para, journaling, which is about my dream. Teaching, which is the fellowship. Coaching, about like why is it so powerful. Coaching with Addie, coaching with Isabel, coaching with powerful analysis. So this is basically how I organize information and using verbs that mean something to me. So that's why I say productivity is really personal, because I think I've never seen anyone done that, but it works super well. And the other thing is that my archive is using past tense of the area. So I would say coached / blah, 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 wrote, blah, blah, like taught. So let me show you an example. I think you will see like things I have already has already been published. It's like wrote my coaching story, the view journals, incubate meets feature. So yeah, that's how I if I could go to archive and not here. Yeah, so in archive you'll see there's like lazy pot, like that's ignore that. Todd, a model breakers launch workshop, something. So it's all sorted by a couple common verbs I've used. Okay. So Stephen, I don't think it's exactly area sub area. It's more like verb and noun, right? Or actually, is that object? Verb and object? Verb and object, maybe. So I think it's more like what are some of my common action and what is the actual topic that I'm working on. So that's the naming schema I'm using. And yes, text and pages are the same thing, but sometimes I use tag, sometimes I use like the bracket, double bracket. So sorry for the terrible stylistic setup. Oh, amazing question. Okay, Jamie, what I'm going to share the level of interest right after this. So yeah, let me thank you. So question on to do. I usually go to the to do and I filter by project or areas. Does that make sense? Okay, I think yes. Okay, makes sense. Let me, what's next? Let me share some schema now. I highlighted this for today. So here are 3 templates I use for Para or PA in my case. So for projects, I have due date, related PA is actually PA, not PAR, because I used to use PAR and then I narrowed down to PA because I realized that everything in Rome is sort of resources. So I ditched the R. But and then there's a status where the projects, some of them are in progress, some of them are not started. I just pick one, and then ideal outcome, which is what I would like the project to be in my life. Okay, so that's the projects. And yes, I will share the schema. Attributes seem to be the same as text. Yeah, so when you say attributes, I think you meant this thing, right? So this is, yes, this is the same as text, as the double bracket, or as the ... That's just 3 ways of linking it. And it's really just for stylistic. I think the internal database is pretty much similar for segmentation. Okay, so for active areas, which is what I call areas, I just very simple related par, and I use the level of interest. So let me, since someone has asked, let me click fascination. You will see what that is. So usually, like this one, I haven't decided because that's the default. Maybe I need to clean it up. But these are some of the areas which I'm really obsessed with. Like I'm working on a letter to my younger self. I'm working on the dreaming stuff. I'm working on, like, this is my favorite coaching session and sessions. And this is an analysis I really love. So here are some areas that I think a lot about, even though there's no direct outcome or due date or deadline I want to assign it to. And using curiosity as another one, here are some things where, yeah, like interesting prompt, like things that I wonder about, but they're not that excited yet, or I'm fine with not spending too much attention on it yet. And then there's slow burning, which is stuff that are there and there's no deadline. I don't have that much excitement to work on that now, so I just put it on the back burner. So my hobbies are also here, and my hobbies is actually writing. I really like, there's no, writing to me is really just a way to express and play and create. So yeah, these are usually my hobbies. The other hobbies are like more like exercises, which is more like, you know, play and it's not using words. Okay, so people have answered a lot of questions in the chat. Let me go back to the schema. Okay, it's here. So the last schema I will share today is the completion checklist, which is usually how I move projects to archive. And I may be sharing this too early because I think Tiago may share this sometime. I don't know when this time, but I think this is usually how I just want to, like, just you can see this and forget this and you will come back to it later. But I just want to share how I move projects across the table. So when I finish a project, I usually will use this completion checklist template, and it will automatically assign an archive. I can pick the 12 favorite problems, which you have seen, and say what are some of the problems that the project has solved. I will link the deliverables or the PDF. I will set a date, and I will write the key people, which is my team and my husband here. And I will also write about feelings, because this is another place where I play with schema. I really love to analyze how I feel and when I feel. So I usually will link a couple feelings I have when I am completing something big or small. Okay, so I think, okay, so I guess, Raf, your question is around smart blocks, right? I don't see you on the first screen, so I actually don't know whether you're shaking your head or nodding. Oh, okay, now I see you. Yes, okay, nothing. Yeah, so I actually play with the smart blocks, and I tried to make it work, but I feel like I can found an easier way, or maybe I'm just lazy, and I realized that I didn't add that much value. And for me, I think Rome, I don't need it to be the perfect system, because otherwise I will have to be managing it all the time, right? If it's perfect. So actually having some friction point where I'm using some of the, verb dash slash something, I'm using some of the templates is helpful, and it's actually easy because it has worked and I know it will work. And on the other hand, I think smart block is something that you need time to master, and I haven't found a task that is complicated enough to actually need that to work. So usually if I could find something easier, I would just go with the easy route. Okay, so what did David say? I feel like everyone's plus+ing one. Otherwise, you'll get lost in tooling like I did with org mode the first time through the course. Yeah, so I think, actually, I don't really know if I'm going to say the same thing, but what I thought David was saying, which I think resonates with me, is just look at the minimum amount of work, tools, and setup that could help you do the maximum amount of stuff, right? And then once you hit the point where you hit the limits, you feel like, oh, wait, you need something more. Otherwise, you're going to running into like some tooling issue, then yes, you can introduce something fancier to life. That's my philosophy. Yes, and I know there's a lot of folks here who is really good at smart blocks, so I will, so you can find them and they'll take care of you. Okay, so let me go back to Lazy Pod, make sure I talked about everything here. Archive, yeah, so I think, yeah, so this is pretty much my para setup in Rome. Any questions here?
Hey, Charlene, I have a question. How do you keep track of your projects, like due dates? Do you do that? How do you keep track of it?
Yeah, so usually let me see projects here. So usually I would just go to due date and I would just filter by projects. And then I can see everything at once. And when I say filter, I said it several times, you can just do filter this page, which is like in this icon, and click it. And you can just click projects, right? And then now you can see all the due date of each project, and you can see whether they're on track or not.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So that's what I love about those like tag and attributes, even though I think Eric said there's no immediate plans with that for on Rome's side. Oh, wait.
And we have Deb and then Shrija have questions.
Oh, nice. Go for it.
All right, unmuted. One of the things that I've consistently been unable to answer for myself, so I'm curious how you do it, is it seems like Evernote is so easy and frictionless to capture. But the creation piece, it sounds like you have a separate system that you showed in Drive that's a capture, but you have this specific space in Rome that you use to create. And so I'm curious about sort of the research piece, the things I'm capturing in my, say, Evernote is what I'm using. How do you move those between your systems, or are you capturing things that you know that are specific to your 12 problems in Rome? That's the only place they're captured, as opposed to 2 locations and you move between them.
Yeah, I feel you. And I think my research happened in Notion, which so it's entirely there because Readwise has a good API, and I am really afraid that they will mess up my graph and delete everything in Rome. So I'm not going to integrate them here yet. So that's my unfounded fear. But I think in creativity, what I found is that when you're researching, and you're using a part of the brain that's different from your creativity brain. So when you're writing, you actually, I think research is more on the analyst, like very critical. You're trying to find clues and connect the dots. On the other hand, when you're creating, you're actually turning off those critics. You're actually focusing on just making things happen, right? So those are entirely different workflow. They may happen after another, but I am pretty intentional about when I'm doing research and when I'm actually creating out of the research or from my inner thoughts. So that context switch is usually how, like, knowing very openly like how I'm doing that. I usually would start with some research in Notion, and usually it would distill down to a one pager where I would just highlight everything I need to know and copy and paste them into Roam. And I just start to like write, move the blocks, and turn them around.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. I also don't have the expectation that one note-taking system will have everything, because I feel like it's too much to trust an app, and I'm more about utilizing the best of them and then ditching the rest.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think there's one more question.
And Srisha?
Yes, thank you, Jamie. Hi, Charlene.
Hey.
Hey. I joined 10 minutes into the session today. I remember in the previous session, you talked about having morning pages as your daily routine. And I love your 12 areas. Some of them are my areas as well, like spirituality. And I really love your hashtags about feelings. So how do you include that in your daily routine? Like first thing in the morning, you get some coffee and you open your room, you start writing, or during the day if something comes up?
Yeah. I let me follow up with that. I may have written something, or I will answer that separately on the daily routine phase. How does that sound?
Okay.
Yeah, I will take that on circle. And I think another person raised their hands, or they
Thank you.
unraised it. Maybe you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was me. And actually, I had the same question.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
on
so
the
I was gonna ask you about your daily notes, like how you're usually like routine and stuff, and you said you're gonna follow up on that. So I
Yeah.
just put my hands down.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would. It will be a template, so it's easier to just let you see directly.
Thank
Okay,
you.
sounds good. So let me try to go back to the slide, and I only have one more, and it will be your time to do worksheet. Okay, so stop sharing now. Share a different one. Okay, so this is what you just saw, right? I like to put everything in one screen so you can see everything at a glance. And I have a very simple SOP, which is most important project has an emoji. So I actually enjoy playing with it. The other one is that I sort the project based on level of excitement. I think Ref may have asked, is it based on importance? I think it's just whenever I feel excited, it's number one. And then number three, I want to make sure each project is solving at least one tall favorite problem. And I factored that into the worksheet today, so you can actually see how this work in your life. So without further ado, let's pull that out. Okay. And I'm going to share that Google Sheet as well. Wait, Am I sharing the right screen? I'm actually not sure. Let's see. Okay. I think now it's good. So let's go to the second tab. Oh, wow. I love people filling it out. Okay, so in this phase, I want to help make sure that your project has a clear within. And when I say within, it's simple as what's in it for me. Because usually if there is no clear why, what's in it for me, we don't want to do the project, or we procrastinate on it, or we just like keep it set aside. So very simple. If you could come down, pick a row and put down your highest priority project into the first column, that would be awesome. So for me, it is to deliver a really great fellowship program. For John, it is to decide on a job offer for the next adventure. Amazing, putting together speculative fiction, workshop guide, file Texas. Nice. Develop software for a student education tool. Yeah, and the other thing is that the more specific you get in a project, the better. And when I say specific, I just mean having an active verb, so you really know what actions you're taking to make what happen. Redesign my BASB, assuming you're still writing. If not, I would say, what do you want to redesign it to? What are some intention you would like the new BASB system look like for David? Complete design of mastering flow experience. Nice. And Minton, I think this applied to a lot of people where when they say just like learn or complete, I would stretch. I will ask, so what's next? Like what are you completing it for? Are you looking to have a deliverable such as sharing something? Like what is beyond completion? That's the question.
Okay, what does completion look like?
So what does it look like?
Basically that I'm ready to run the course. I mean, I put a date on when we're going to offer the course for it's a B2B client course. So
got it. So is it to finish the landing page, to send it to someone?
This is literally designing the curriculum and every learning activity, and it's a cohort-based training, so it's
Got
I've
it.
never designed one like that before.
Got it. So okay. So basically designing that course so that's ready for launch.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I mean, so do you have a separate project which is launching that, or is that the same project?
That would probably be a separate. I mean, there's actually multiple projects. To be truthful, I would want there to be multiple projects because this is the whole course is really a large project, too large.
Nice. So this is actually a really good example of minimum viable project, right? Because you're not writing a very big one such as mastering flow experience. You're actually saying that this is the first phase, this is the designing phase.
Yeah, it's actually.
Or the second or third.
It actually includes it includes development and it includes everything. So I will reason about how to break down what are the mini projects or sub projects. Nice.
Okay, so I'll see what you come up with the details. BASB mentorship, Maria. Maybe some of what would you like the mentorship to look like, right? Like what is the success of the mentorship? Like some ideas for you to think more about. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So very good. And then the second one is more about looking at the list you published on Circle, or you shared it, or you wrote it in your notebook. What 1 or 2 or 3 problem does this project solve? And I help, like whenever I help people connect the projects to their why, their motivation level just jump. So this is a good incentive to actually figure out what is the goal? Why is this project here? Okay, and I love the Rome tag. Okay, so I think we have a good column C. Then for column D, I would love you to just write about how excited are you about just executing that project, right? For me, I'm like super excited about that. Like those are my favorite things. For John, it's 8, 7, 2, 5. And for the ones that you were least excited about, which is actually a good thing because you're putting it down here, which probably will increase it a little bit. You're connecting to the with them, connecting to the topic problem is usually a good way to overcome the lack of excitement. Or if you feel like you're procrastinating, then focusing on maybe the with them, like why is that project there? What is the goal? What is it that it could help you solve in your life? Will help a little bit. Okay, and as you on the current state, this is really just for you. So you have a snapshot of what does that project look like today, and later you can we'll talk more about that, and you'll talk more about that in your breakout room. So also another good one. And date is also for you, so you could put it out there, and usually that's accountability where when you put it out there, it's a lot likely to happen. Okay, so after this, I'm going to do a breakout room where there are 3 prompts. One is I would love you to just talk about how does this project help solve your problem, right? Connecting the dots even further. Number 2, what would it look like if the project were easy? Maybe 1% easy, maybe you can 10% easy. Like what would it look like if it were easy? And the final one is how could you get your excitement level a little bit higher? So if you were a 2, how could you get it to a 3? If you were a 5, how could you get it to a 6? So those are the 3 prompts, and you'll have this reference as you open this, have this tab open in the breakout room. So let me create the breakout room.
Can you clarify what you mean by easy? Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So let me use my example, or actually, let me pick someone's. Anyone want to volunteer your example?
I asked the question, so you can use mine.
Okay.
I have the website that I'm making about my art collective.
Gordon. Okay, so right now, when you think about building, it's an 8, right? How can you create participatory art installation that evoke wonder? So how easy is it to publish that website for you?
I mean, it wasn't hard to get it published, but it's been hard to get it right, I guess, is what I'll say.
So what makes it hard to get it right?
I want it to have like the right aesthetic quality, to have all the content that I need to get in there, right? Like getting the first 20% of it up and stood up was easy. And now it's like all the little details that I have to find, you know, chasing down my collaborators to get their bio photos and having them write little bio descriptions of them, that kind of stuff.
Got it. So I think the question in your case is, what would it look like if chasing down, finalizing the details are easy?
So what what does that mean? Like, how would I make that easy?
Yeah, so like what would be, so maybe your current way of approaching like is what it is today, right? But what would be some other ways of approaching it so that you can enjoy the process a little bit more, so that it's actually
Got it.
easier?
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Any other question before we go into a breakout room? Oh, it's 2:53. Wow. Sorry, I didn't check the time. Okay, no. Okay, so I've opened the room, and yeah, you can join, and we'll come back in like 6 minutes, 7 minutes or so.
Charlene, can you broadcast the questions, like just throw them in a text to the rooms?
Let me broadcast it too.
Okay, got it.
I broadcast them all at once. I don't know if that's too much.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
They'll have them.
Were there any open questions in the chat?
I think they mostly people answered each other.
Nice.
There's a question about habits that I think I would direct people to circle for in terms of, because I think it's a valuable discussion for everyone, in terms of whether installing a habit is a project or an area.
Hmm.
I think for me, neither. It's like sort of, it's more related to like reviews and, tracking and stuff.
Got it.
So I'm curious, like when you do your task, how do you like search or filter so you'll know like, yeah, you're seeing your tasks for your areas and projects? Like,
Yeah,
do
you
do
mean
tasks
in Rome, right?
Rome or
Yeah.
like how do you do?
I have two types of tasks. One is the ones in team, and that one's in Todoist because I can share with team and delegate. The other one's in Rome, and the Rome I usually go to the Rome to do, and I usually just filter them by text. So I would maybe find the projects, and then I can find out all the project to dos. Does that help?
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you use Todoist for your teams because yeah,
Yes.
like you need to share the tasks with your teams. Obviously.
Right, because I think I'm just not comfortable doing Rome for a team yet, because I just don't know where that sharing leaking will go.
Sounds good.
That's been my attitude about Rome and a larger group as well.
But yeah, I hope their security goes well. I'm rooting for them, but that's not today. So I'm going to be realistic. And okay, so everyone, welcome back. If you could come to the third tab and share 1 or 2 insights you got from the breakout room, that would be awesome. And in parallel, I will be taking any questions you may have. I know we're out of time, so feel free to drop if you have the next thing. I want to just answer 1 or 2 final questions before we wrap up. Also, there's the feedback form, which I highly appreciate. Someone actually a few people kindly tell me that my AV could improve, so I did. So please let me know feedback today as well. And then we'll drop the link in the chat. Cool. So let me look at what are something. So 6 minutes, very short. Yes, I will improve on my time management in the future. Thanks for that. Breaking things down into smaller projects to break out the mental load. Having a mentor to help guide a project will make it easier, but also getting much clearer on the scope. Yeah. So yeah, I think David put it pretty well. So yeah. And actually, burnout is a very interesting topic because like I have a thesis that having a full-time job is good for creativity. And one feedback I got is like, how about burnout? So I will address that. Probably, actually, I don't know which forum, but I'll definitely talk about that. Any questions? Anything really? Anything that came out in the breakout room? I'm seeing a lot of stuff here. Okay, Shush. Can you unmute yourself?
Hello there.
Hey.
I have a quick question, if I may, which is, you have an excellent writing habit, number one, and do you do your writing in Rome, or do you use another place to write, and then do you then bring it into Rome in order to curate or fit it into a nice curated collection of
Okay.
articles that you're writing.
So are you asking more about my process of producing a piece or process of organizing the hundreds of posts I have written?
It's more about in constructing, say a list of projects. What does that actually physically look like when you are either creating, for example, a collection of ideas? For example, if a project was to write a list of articles for a website, for example. You can use something like Evernote to do all your writing and brainstorming on. And then once you have a formulated article, you could then bring it into Rome in order to.
Oh, okay. So let me use an actual example. Let me see. What am I writing about recently? Let's see what is in here. Writing. So, okay, all of my writing right now is personal writing, so not much research, but assuming these are research pieces I copied pasted over from Notion or Evernote, whatever, right? Usually I literally just since I have the source noted already, I usually just break them up as if they're my own words and I start to rewrite. So it's literally using, so it's almost like your diary, and how would you restructure your diary and turn them into a readable piece? And I probably could record an actual writing routine because I do that every week, and hopefully that could help inform how the creative process is. It's a lot messier than you would think.
That would be fantastic if you could potentially produce that and allow the group to take, just to watch that video perhaps.
Okay, so my 2 AI, one is to someone follow up in the chat, which I will take a note of, and the other one is the creativity process. I actually have one in Notion. I can share that first since that's already recorded, and then the real one to come. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. I don't think we have much right now. So but it's really, really awesome to, have today's, how often should we review our active project list? Do you do a weekly or monthly review? So I have a weekly team meeting for my organization, Living OS. And part of that is to share weekly status updates. So I use that as the forcing function for my weekly review. So I wouldn't say it is a weekly review, it's a weekly team meeting, but to prepare for that meeting, I need to have a weekly review. So I do have that. Okay, so I hope that answers the question, and really appreciate everyone here. I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye.